Congressman Adam Kinzinger may be bucking that trend because he's done something I feel is extraordinary that we don't see enough from politicians.
It is true. He has really done soul searching, especially over the weekend, and he has changed his views, and he's not afraid to talk about it. And, you know, he is a Republican congressman, and I'm not sure how this necessarily plays politically, but he was moved by what happened this weekend, and he joins us right now. Let's talk about it. Congressman, welcome again to TMZ Live.
Hey, thanks. Good to be with you.
So, explain to us what happened to you over the weekend and what came out as a result.
Well, it's, everybody's equally horrified by these tragedies. The problem is what's happened in the last, obviously since these have been going on, is people are horrified for a day and then they retreat to their political corners. This goes on both sides, by the way. And they're unwilling to listen to the views of the other point. They think that you don't trust anybody on the other side of the debate. And I sat around and I thought about this. I'm like, there are things we can do now that I think we can get some pretty broad consensus on. The problem is we always like to immediately focus on the things we don't agree on. And so as I was thinking about it, I go, look, you have to be 21 years old to buy a handgun. You only have to be 18 to buy a long gun. Now, that stemmed from back in the day, 18-year-olds buying a shotgun to go hunting, and I have no problem with that. But that law is allowing people, for instance, in high school or just out of high school with a fresh grudge against their high school, to go buy an AR-15 or AK and go do what they do. So let's raise all that age to 21. The other thing is let's do universal background checks. Let's do it in a way that's not overly cumbersome on people that, for instance, want to do private sales if I want to buy my dad's gun, which I have before, but a way that we still can go through that process. A 100-round ammo clip is not necessary. Let's do away with those. And then ultimately understand that this is an issue of the heart. When you only focus on gun control or you only focus on mental health, I think we're missing the opportunity to focus on both, make a real dent and an impact.
You changed your view on universal background checks.
Just in February, right? You voted against a universal background checks measure that was in the House. So, as Harvey was saying, sorry, I didn't mean to stop you.
No,
it was
okay.
The thing that was so extraordinary about this, because we don't see politicians generally do that. They stand.
No, and I think we need to, and this is part of that, what can we agree on, not what can we disagree on. And, if we can, H.R. 8, that was the background check bill. There's some things I didn't like in it, some overly cumbersome stuff. I'd love to be able to adjust that. But regardless, if something like that comes in front of me, or we can figure out a way to implement this in a better way, it needs to happen. So none of this is the panacea. Really it comes down to when you have evil people that want to commit harm, they're going to find a way to do it. But where we can mitigate these problems, we absolutely need to do it without infringing on people's Second Amendment rights.
Congressman, you have been, on Capitol Hill for a while now, and this is the 250th mass shooting in Dayton. What was it about this weekend that caused this kind of soul searching and, to an extent, a change in your view?
It was really just, this happens over and over. There's a political component, and I've gotten to the point where I don't care about the politics of it. This may hurt me politically. It may help me politically. I don't know. I don't really care. But I looked at it and said, okay, on whether we ban assault weapons, that's a debate that's not going to be solved today. What can we solve today? I think it makes sense to say raising the age to 21 of purchase. It makes sense to say background checks for everybody. And it makes sense to say if you have a 100-round ammo clip, that's probably a bit excessive. Remember, I came out in opposition to bump stocks after the shooting in Las Vegas. So it's finding areas we can agree.
Congressman, what would you say to, as I'm sure you will hear from people, and you mentioned this, if someone is in high school or they've just graduated, they're 18 and they want to go hunting with their family, changing the law to 21 would obviously be a hindrance to that.
Yeah, that's true. And, look, the country's getting ready to raise the smoking age to 21, and they've raised the drinking age to 21. I think a state should be able to, I've got to look at what this looks like, but to create maybe a class or a plan even about the moral use of guns. to get something like a shotgun for an 18-year-old. But the real issue is somebody with a fresh grudge out of high school going and buying a rapid-fire rifle. And I'll tell you, man, if I could think back to some of the thoughts I had when I was 19, I would shudder today. You do a lot of growing up between 18 and 21, and especially 3 years away from a grudge. So I'd say that. And to everybody out there, I'd say this. What I'm doing to some people is too much. What I'm doing to other people is not enough. Let's focus on where we can agree and see the impact it has and try to fix this as a country.
Well, and I'm glad you said that because it raises the issue that every time there is a shooting and every time there is a call to action, Congress doesn't act. And a lot of people are disgusted with Congress as a result of it. I just want to throw out my opinion here, which is that you are one of the few people who has been open enough to change their view, to really think about it. And it puts you in a position of leadership where maybe you can try and bridge the gap and become that voice in Congress that we really haven't heard. Because like you said, there are,
partisan.
There's a dividing wall. You going to take that challenge up and try and become a leader on this issue because we need one?
Yeah, I will. And I mean, honestly, guys, I don't do this job because I want to be famous or because I need the paycheck or I want the title. It's because I want to make an impact, and I'm tired of people in Congress not being willing to make an impact.
You mentioned that you're not at a place yet where you want to ban assault. But we have discussed it, particularly in the Dayton shooting, where in just a matter of 20 seconds was able to fire enough to kill 9 people. Even in hunting, why would you need a weapon that can unload that much ammo that quickly?
Look, I own an AR. I shoot it a lot. 99.99% of people that own these do them for sport. But there are people that don't. So how do we keep those out of their hands? And I think if we can focus on what we agree on now, we can actually make some achievement. If we go right to what we disagree on, it's going to be the same thing over and over.
So look, we're out of time, but I got to tell you, Congressman, I read your op-ed piece, and I personally would love to see way more than this, and I would like to ban those weapons. And the fact that you're looking for common ground, and the fact that you were open enough to change and really kind of look at this as, a crisis, I was really inspired by it. This is the starting point, hopefully, for Congress finally doing something, but it was really moving to hear you and see what you did, and I sincerely mean that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And again, if people just do what's right, we're going to have political disagreements forever, but let's focus on where we can agree on tragedies like this and understand that evil is real in this world, and for some reason people are feeling disconnected. They're feeling isolated. There's an issue with that. And by the way, the media needs to quit publishing the manifestos of these crazy people, because to most of us, we read it and we're like, that person's crazy, but somebody somewhere is usually triggered by it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Listen, cannot thank you enough for the time. Really appreciate it.
See you guys.
Thanks again.
Take care.
Let's take a break.